The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
Here's my music on size. Good morning. This is Mitch Goldberg, and this is Money in the Morning. To connect with me personally, visit clientfirststrategy.com. I understand there was some music in the background. Maybe we'll see, but let's just get the day started. You've got a lot to cover, but I feel like if we didn't have a lot to cover, I wouldn't be doing my job. The stock market follows Friday's down day with a down day of its own so far in the futures today, with the Dow futures down 183, about 0.5%, S&P futures down 31, about 0.75%, and Nasdaq futures down about 1%. Nasdaq, by the way, is coming off of a 5-week win streak, and the Nasdaq and S&P 500 were both up last week. Dow is off ever so slightly. By the way, if you haven't heard me say this, you can't invest directly into an index, but you could invest in a fund that tracks or mimics an index, okay? And while I have you here, the Dow stands at 2.35% year to date, the S&P up almost 8% year to date, and the Nasdaq up almost 15% year to date. So markets were pretty heady coming into late last week, and we spoke Thursday. I said to you guys, again, I don't mean to I said oh, look at me. We were talking, and one of the things I did say was that, the markets are up a lot heading into the end of the week, and we've got the employment figures coming the next day. So it's going to be tough for the market to keep going up. And sure enough, we had a huge employment figures numbers. Non-farm payrolls, 517,000 new jobs created, and the unemployment rate dipped to 3.4%, which is the lowest since 1969. I mean, how often do you say since 1969? That's quite strong. And we've been bouncing between soft landing and recession. So does the Federal Reserve raise interest rates enough to slow the economy down, to bring down inflation? Or does the Fed actually cause a recession, which should definitely bring down inflation? There's a new school of thought that's thinking that we might not even have a soft landing. We started to look like soft landing, but now we're not even sure if we're having a landing at all, with the latest numbers in productivity and employment and service sectors all doing quite well. And there's some really good bright spots in manufacturing, in particular coming from Boeing, which when Boeing gets more orders and manufactures more planes, that's a supply chain that affects more people than any other company probably in the entire world. And it certainly has huge ramifications for jobs in the United States. So, I could give you compelling reasons to say recession, soft landing, no landing, but I'm just giving you an idea of where we stand in the world, okay, with regard to all of this stuff. Revisions for the employment figures from 2021 and 2022 have actually shown even bigger job gains than previously reported. So even going back the last 2 years, job gains were stronger than expected, and there have been some layoffs. In fact, today, Dell just announced that they're laying off 6,650 workers, about 5% of their workforce. But the layoffs you've been hearing about in technology have largely been just confined to tech. They haven't spilled over to the broader economy. So, by the way, there is still demand for tech. If you go on Indeed.com and look at the top most wanted, jobs wanted on Indeed, almost all of them are tech related. So it's not like people get laid off in tech and they can never get a job in tech again. It's just the big companies, the big tech companies, they were able to hire during the pandemic. People wanted certainty. Employees wanted the feeling of being with one of the bigger tech outfits. And it was just, and the big companies had more money to throw around. So they overstocked on employees, these big tech companies, and now they're realizing that, we are not going to be in the pandemic-induced work from home, stay-at-home environment forever. And they're shedding the employees that they don't need, but that gives lots of other tech companies an advantage to pick up well-trained employees. So that's what's going on there. The buybacks from Chevron 2 weeks ago of $75 billion and Meta last week announced for $40 billion. Those two alone are massive buybacks. And some reports say we could see $1 trillion of buybacks this year. So in one way, corporate earnings are starting to trend lower. Not that they're getting negative. They're just, the growth isn't as good as it was a year ago. So corporate earnings growth for this cycle has peaked. But they're still generating lots of cash. And it just goes to show you how strong corporate America is. When you look at a Chevron and you look at a Meta, by the way, Meta used to be called Facebook, just when you think, like, what the hell's Meta? Okay, Meta, $40 billion buyback. These companies are still generating huge amounts of cash. So these companies are very healthy. You've got to be a really healthy company to announce multi-billion-dollar buybacks. And we probably will see a lot more of those coming down there. We're already seeing more and more, and it's only February 6th, okay? So last week on Friday, when the labor report came out, wages were up 4.4% year over year. It was expected to be 4.6. It's a little moderating, just a little bit. Job openings also rose, and we also had something in the market called a golden cross. This is a bullish signal. And the golden cross means when the 50-day moving average crosses over the 200 moving day average. This is all technical analysis. Some people call technical analysis voodoo analysis. I do believe in it. Not voodoo. I believe in technical analysis. Okay. I don't think it should be called voodoo analysis. But that's happened 37 times since 1950. And 1 year later, the S&P 500 rose 78% of the time. You probably thought I was going to say it rose 78%. No, I wish, but no. But 37 golden crosses since 1950. Okay, so we're talking 73 years. The S&P 500 rises 78% of the time, historically, with a median gain of 12.7%. So based on that, we could see some more upside in the markets. That's good. It's tough that the markets have already rallied a lot this year. Look, these are rules of thumb, by the way. I don't go by these because they work just enough to suck people into them, and then they don't work and people scratch their head and go, oh, that statistic is no good anymore. And just when people think it's no good anymore is when it gets good again. I think when too many people are following the same stats is when they start to lose their consistency. And then they're no longer a desirable stat to follow. Okay? So a little too much concern about stocks rallying last week has given way to stocks going down this week. The Federal Reserve is expected to raise rates maybe 1 or 2 more quarter point hikes this year, and then just hold for that level maybe until the end of this year or until early 2024. Now that comes into doubt because of the strong labor figures. Maybe the Fed raises rates 3 or 4 more times, 0.25%, and holds rates at that level well into 2024. If that's the case, it makes sense that stocks would get marked down a little bit. Incidentally, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it's only about 5% from its all-time high. It's just within shouting distance of breaking to a new all-time high. That index went down the least last year, so it makes sense that it could recover the fastest. The less you go down, often the quicker you could recover in the market. All right. On tap this week, the big earnings report, I think, has to really come from Disney on Wednesday. Incidentally, a lot of people go, how could they not be doing well? Have you been to the parks lately? It's a fortune. But U.S. parks represent 25% of their 2023 revenues. And Netflix had a really good quarter, and they have a high valuation. So we'll see if Disney Plus also brought in new subscribers, and maybe they could get a similar or closer valuation to Netflix, which could push the stock up potentially even higher, according to Wall Street analysts. All right, you're listening to Money in the Morning with Mitch Goldberg, and you can catch me at clientfirststrategy.com. You're listening to LI News Radio 103.9 FM. Hang around. We'll be right back after these messages to talk about what's important to you, your money. We are back. You're listening to Money in the Morning with Mitch Goldberg. Sorry, guys, to cut off the music there, but we've got a lot to cover, and I want to take advantage of every minute to share this knowledge with you guys, the listeners. We are grateful that you joined us here at 103.9 FM, LI News Radio. We're going to flip it now to what are we doing with all this information that I just threw at you in the first half. I think it's important to understand how markets, the economy work. And we often talk about the economy and the market like they're interchangeable. They're not always interchangeable. Sometimes we want something that you wouldn't expect out of the economy. Like if the economy is too strong and the labor market is too strong and wages are going up, that's good for us on an individual basis. For the stock market, it's a little different. That means interest rates go up, inflation goes up, and that's not good for the stock market. So if you apply your living in financial markets, you keep your eye on these things. For me, I want good things in the economy because whether the stock market goes up or down over the short term, the important thing is I want my clients to have steady income, solid, steady employment, the ability to save and invest, and the more change, I feel like the more things change, the more in demand, I guess, the knowledge will be. And that's what we're going to share with you. So let's talk about Roth IRAs. Okay. We all know what an IRA is, individual retirement account. And there's a couple of different kinds of IRAs, but I'll talk about these generally as IRAs. But there's a SEP IRA, there's a simple IRA, there's your regular old-fashioned traditional IRA, and then there's a Roth IRA, and that's different. A Roth IRA is a fantastic tool that I've never met anybody who was unhappy that they contributed to a Roth IRA or converted their traditional IRA into a Roth IRA when they retired. And the way it works is this, just a quick little primer. When you put money into an IRA, for the amount of money you put into it, you get a little tax deduction. So if you put $6,500 into an IRA and your income is $200,000 a year, now your income is $193,500. So you're just taxed on $6,500 less income. That's what a deduction does. With a Roth IRA, you would not get that deduction. The money would go, so that means the money would go into a Roth IRA after tax. But what you gain is this. With the traditional IRA where you got the tax deduction, and then you get tax deferred growth over time while you keep the money in the account, when you take the money out as a distribution, it's income tax. So you pay federal and state. State is a lot here in New York, okay? So you pay federal and state. And that could even raise your tax bracket. It could put you into, a whole higher tax bracket, which means all of your other income could be more taxable. And that could impact, your Medicare and Social Security. That might make your Medicare and Social Security taxable, or even make you have to contribute a greater share to the cost of your Medicare. And I know we should all pay our share, of course. But when it comes to taxes, I like to use the expression that we all have a duty to minimize our own taxes, in a sound and legal way, of course. Okay. By the way, I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not your mama. I'm not your papa, and I'm not your tax advisor. But talking about this stuff, Roth IRAs and IRAs, you can't talk about it without talking about taxes. So it's part of the conversation. So before you consider putting money into an IRA or a Roth IRA, or doing an IRA conversion to a Roth, make sure you have a conversation about that with your accountant. Okay? Make sure you do it right. Because if you do it by listening to some guy on the radio and things don't turn out the way you expected, you can't call me and say, well, I did it because of you. And, so I want everybody to do it right. So I'm giving general knowledge here. All right. So anyway, with a Roth, when you take the money out, it's tax free. So the money grows in the account tax free, not tax deferred, tax free, because you're going to eventually take the money out as a distribution, and it's tax free. So it won't raise your state income taxes, and it won't raise your federal taxes. The advantage to that is that when you start collecting Social Security and you start paying into Medicare, you start collecting Medicare, when you participate in it, sign up, whatever terminology you want to use, it's your taxes will be lower, and you will be expected to contribute less. So by lowering your taxes now, by making plans to lower your taxes with a Roth IRA, you actually get more out of your benefit of Medicare and Social Security. And this is why it's so important to do proper tax planning as part of your financial plan. Most people, they just talk to their accountant when they do their taxes, which is like the worst time to get into a detailed, in-depth conversation about your taxes during tax season, when your accountant is trying to do like 1,000 tax returns. They just want to get through April 15th as quickly as possible. They're miserable. They're working 24 hours a day. And now you're asking them, well, I want to go over my tax situation, and should I do this? And they're just like going to give you a quick answer. So you're going to say, I want to minimize my taxes. So they'll just reflexively say, usually the CPA will say, do a SEP IRA or a traditional IRA contribution. It's a tax deduction, and you lower your taxes a little bit. And people, okay, great. People say that's great. But if they had more time, they might say, and I certainly would say, well, do you want to lower your taxes now by a little bit? Or do you want to lower your taxes by a lot of it down the road? Because potentially the money you put into an IRA grows over time. So when you take the money out, you are probably going to take more money out than what you put in, which means you'll be paying more in taxes. Now, your tax rate could be lower in retirement. I have seen so many cases where people's tax rates are actually not lower in retirement, or only a little bit lower in retirement. And tax rates are also expected to go up because the current taxes are going to sunset, and we're going to go back to the old tax rates from 2016. All right, so that's the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So this tax rates that we have now are going to sunset soon, and rates, the brackets are expected to go higher. So it's important to do financial planning and include tax planning as part of that. So when you contribute to a Roth, you get the advantage of knowing that you have basically proofed yourself against future tax increases. And with the federal the federal budget negative over $30 trillion, there is a good chance that taxes could go higher. And as the population ages and with medical inflation, there's a really good chance that you could be expected to contribute more to your Medicare and maybe be taxed more on your Social Security benefit. So these are the kinds of things that you should be looking at. It's not just a matter of picking the best stock. I mean, people think they're going to go for that Sunday punch investment that they're going to make so much money on that it negates all of the need to do financial planning and tax planning for the future. And unless you like work for a major tech company, it's probably not going to be a smart choice. And even if you do work for a major tech company, it makes your planning even more important. Okay, so everyone has to consider these things, in my opinion. We're going to talk more about Roth IRAs, converting IRAs to Roth IRAs. We're going to talk a lot about the stuff this week. So please stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to get more into this. We're going to pass the basics, and we're going to go more into the details of how you could make this stuff, these strategies, work for you. You're listening to Money in the Morning with Mitch Goldberg. I'm Mitch. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'm on Instagram at InstaMitchG, Client First Strategy on Facebook, Client First Strategy on YouTube, at Mitch_Goldberg on Twitter. You're listening to 103.9 FM, LI News Radio, and we thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.
Securities and investment advisory services are offered through Next Financial Group Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Client First Strategy is not an affiliate of Next Financial Group Incorporated. All the views expressed are those of Mitchell Goldberg and Client First Strategy and not those of Next Financial Group Incorporated. Views are general in nature and not intended to be investment advice. Any discussion of individual securities should not be construed as a recommendation or solicitation by our presenters. Next Financial Group Incorporated does not provide tax advice.
The views and